Imagine building this massive, highly optimized business where, just one single raw material shortage suddenly costs you $2 billion out of thin air.
Yeah, that is a terrifying thought.
Right. Well, welcome to Auto News Talk. We are looking at this brutal efficiency squeeze that is currently tearing through the auto industry.
It really is. It's forcing a top-to-bottom audit of basically how everything is done.
Exactly. I mean, we are talking about hunting down every single ounce of waste, from the raw metal used to build the trucks, to the physical footprint of the dealerships, all the way down to the digital code that gets a buyer onto the lot in the first place.
And you have to remember, the stakes are incredibly high in this current landscape. The winners here aren't just making better cars.
Yeah.
They are completely rewriting the rules of how vehicles are built, sold, and maintained because, honestly, the margin for error has basically vanished.
So here is the terrain we are walking through with you on this segment. We are going to follow the life cycle of a modern vehicle's profitability. We will start in the manufacturing plants, where massive material shortages are forcing some, really radical clean sheet redesign.
Total overhauls, yeah.
Yeah. And then from there, we will hit the road to look at why manufacturers are suddenly buying up physical retail spaces.
Which is a huge shift.
It totally is. And finally, we will dive into the digital dealership to see how artificial intelligence and, honestly, just basic data hygiene are making or breaking sales and service.
I think it's important to keep in mind as we go through this that in such a hyper-competitive landscape, an inefficiency at any one of these stages just snowballs.
Oh, for sure.
Like a bottleneck in the factory becomes a massive headache for the dealer, which then, well, it just becomes a lost customer. It is all connected.
Well, let's start right in the manufacturing crucible then.
Yeah.
Automakers are facing this brutal reality check on the cost of building vehicles.
They really are.
I was reading through an industry briefing covering commodity impacts, and it highlights this severe ongoing aluminum shortage. And it is heavily slowing down production of the Ford F-150. Yeah, it is keeping dealer inventory incredibly tight.
The financial scale of that squeeze is what really jumps out to me. That briefing notes, Ford is expected to spend a staggering $2 billion on commodities.
Just on commodities?
Yeah, specifically due to higher aluminum prices. I mean, that is double their original estimate.
$2 billion.
Yeah.
Just vanishing.
Gone. And here is why that matters to the broader ecosystem. When you are short on a critical material like aluminum, fewer trucks are built, right?
Right.
And the ones that are built cost significantly more. So that squeezes margins at the corporate level, and it creates a miserable experience for customers at the dealership who, they just can't find the configuration they want.
That makes total sense.
Furthermore, this briefing points out that this is happening against a backdrop of wider global pressure. You have trade uncertainty like Audi actively warning about the burden of U.S. tariffs on European imports.
Oh, wow. Which could lead to job cuts, right?
Exactly. And you also have competitive dynamics shifting, with Chinese brands like BYD, Chery, and Geely probing the Canadian market.
So they're getting squeezed on materials, squeezed on margins, and squeezed by new global competitors.
Basically, yeah.
But, reading through that briefing, I kept wondering, what is the immediate Band-Aid here?
That's the big question.
Because it outlines the pain perfectly, but it doesn't answer what mitigation efforts are happening behind the scenes. Are they diversifying suppliers, adjusting contracts? We just see the symptom.
Yeah, that is a very real blind spot in that specific report. The immediate tactical response is completely opaque.
Right.
However, if we look at a different source, there's a detailed breakdown of Ford's long-term electric vehicle strategy. We actually see the structural cure they're attempting.
Oh, interesting.
An automaker survives this kind of margin pressure by completely changing their fundamental architecture.
Okay, let's unpack that, because this strategy report dives into a skunkworks team based in Long Beach.
Yes.
And they are developing a universal electric vehicle, or UEV, platform. Their goal is a roughly $30,000 midsize electric pickup.
Right, and to hit that price point without subsidies, they are rethinking the chemistry and the wiring entirely. They are using localized lithium iron phosphate, or LFP, cells, and they are shifting to a 48-volt electrical architecture.
Wait, pause on the 48-volt thing for a second.
Sure.
Why does the voltage matter so much for cost?
Well, most traditional cars run on a 12-volt system.
Okay.
If you quadruple the voltage to 48 volts, you can push the same amount of power through significantly thinner wires.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and thinner wires mean you need far less copper. Less copper means the wiring harness is drastically lighter, it's cheaper to buy, and this is key, it's easier for workers to snake through the vehicle on the assembly line.
So it is a compounding weight and cost saving.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. But the detail from this report that really blew my mind was the engineering shift towards something called megacasting.
Yes, megacasting is huge.
The source notes that this new pickup will use only 2 large structural front and rear parts. 2. For context, they compare that to the gas-powered Maverick, which uses 146 comparable components.
Yeah, going from 146 pieces down to 2 is the defining shift here.
It's crazy.
It is. Instead of a factory floor filled with robots stamping, welding, and fastening 146 separate pieces of sheet metal, they are taking molten metal and injecting it into a massive press.
Wow.
It cuts out 20% of the parts, 25% of the fasteners, and it actually reduces assembly time by 15% compared to current EVs like the Mustang Mach-E.
So wait, instead of snapping together 146 complex Lego pieces, they're basically just pouring liquid metal into a giant mold.
Exactly.
It's like creating a Hot Wheels toy car body in one single shot.
That is the exact visual. It is brilliant for manufacturing efficiency.
But hold on, if I get rear-ended in a parking lot and dent the frame on a Megacast vehicle, am I replacing half the truck?
That is a great point.
Because that seems like a massive issue for repairability and insurance.
You are hitting on a massive industry tension there. The trade-off for factory efficiency is often repair complexity.
Right.
But for the legacy automakers, this is an existential requirement. They have to dramatically cut development times. The report points out that Chinese automakers have development cycles of around 20 months.
Just 20 months.
Yeah, that is roughly half the time it takes legacy brands to bring a car to market. The Chinese brands have massive vertical integration and government support, which allows them to undercut on price.
So to compete with that speed and cost, legacy brands have to simplify the physical build.
They don't really have a choice.
I hear the vision, but let's be real. This strategy report leaves open some massive execution risks.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, it outlines a beautiful engineering theory, but it remains to be seen if they can actually hit those cost, scale, and speed targets, especially with EV demand cooling off and government incentives constantly shifting.
Yeah, it is basically a $5 billion bet on a clean sheet of paper. And what is fascinating is that this drive for absolute efficiency doesn't stop at the factory doors.
Right, it keeps going.
Exactly. So manufacturing is getting incredibly centralized to save costs. But saving money in the factory doesn't matter if the delivery and maintenance logistics just eat up all those savings.
Which brings us to the battle for the physical footprint.
Yes.
Because the independent dealer network has always been the standard, right?
For decades, yeah.
But to manage these complex new vehicles and squeeze out inefficiencies, manufacturers are absorbing retail networks to take direct control of the customer experience.
We see a perfect example of this in a report focused on commercial retail.
Oh, the Daimler one.
Right. It notes that Daimler Truck AG has acquired eStar. They are integrating 6 Mercedes-Benz truck and van sites in Northwest England and North Wales directly into their own retail network.
Which is a major shift from the independent dealer model to direct manufacturer management.
It really is.
And the geography of this move is super specific. The acquisition secures stability for roughly 300 employees. But more importantly, it locks down physical control over a critical, really dense freight corridor. We are talking about locations serving Greater Manchester, Merseyside, and the Port of Liverpool.
And geography is everything in commercial logistics. Why does Daimler want direct control over those specific locations? Because in heavy freight, uptime is the only metric that matters.
If the truck isn't moving, it's not making money.
Exactly. When a truck is off the road, the fleet is bleeding money. Manufacturer-owned sites theoretically offer faster decision-making, quicker access to proprietary parts, and a stronger ability to hold fleets' hands as they transition to zero-emission transport.
So they want consistency.
Yes. An OEM wants uniform standards. They want a truck serviced in Manchester to get the exact same protocol as a truck serviced in Wales using integrated data systems that feed directly back to headquarters.
I mean, I get the corporate logic, I really do. But independent dealers have always been the lifeblood of auto retail. They know the local buyers. They can pivot quickly to local market quirks.
That's true.
Doesn't an original equipment manufacturer, an OEM taking over, feel a bit like an airline, suddenly insisting on owning all the airports?
That's a good way to put it.
What's the risk of losing that local independent touch?
It is the ultimate trade-off, really, between localized agility and centralized efficiency. A massive corporation might struggle to handle the nuanced relationship building that a local owner has spent decades cultivating.
And the blind spot of this acquisition report is that it doesn't answer what the actual integration progress looks like.
Right.
The sign on the building changes to Daimler, sure.
Yeah.
But how do operations practically change for a driver pulling into the service bay? We just don't know yet.
And, the physical real estate is really just the container.
What do you mean?
Well, because whether you are an independent dealer in Texas or an OEM-owned mega site in Liverpool, physical control is absolutely useless if your digital house is a mess.
Oh, because customers find you online first.
Exactly.
The fight for that customer is now entirely dictated by machines, both the artificial intelligence systems finding the inventory online and the back-end databases running the service base.
Yes.
Let's talk about the AI discovery phase first. I read a really insightful guide on AI-optimized websites, and it points out that shoppers are increasingly using tools like Claude, Gemini, and ChatGPT to find cars.
Instead of traditional search engines, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And this requires a fundamental shift in digital strategy. Traditional search engines looked for keywords. AI systems evaluate context, clarity, and structure.
It's a whole different game.
It is. If a dealer has a bloated, slow site with messy code, the AI will simply bypass them. It effectively makes their inventory invisible. To be recommended by these bots, dealers have to rebuild their sites for machine readability. The source stresses the need for fast load times, conversational content that answers intent-rich questions, and strict schema markup.
Okay, let's translate schema markup for a second, because that sounds like heavy jargon.
Fair enough.
What does that actually mean for a dealership website?
Think of schema markup as invisible digital name tags for your data.
Okay.
When a human looks at a website, they know that $45,000 is the price, 2022 is the year, and a 10-digit number is the phone number.
Just by context.
Right. But an AI doesn't inherently know that. Schema markup is the code that explicitly tells the AI, this is the price, this is the mileage, this is the VIN. It removes the guesswork.
That makes a lot of sense. The memorable detail from this source that really stuck with me was about web addresses.
Oh, the URLs.
Yeah. Dealers need to ditch those messy URLs with generic tracking numbers, like an address ending in /inventory !ID equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Right. Terrible for AI. Instead, they need machine-readable paths, like /used/forward/F-150/4x4 tow package/Chicago Ill.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That URL structure acts as a literal map for the AI. It tells the machine exactly what the product is, its features, and its location, without the AI having to parse some chaotic database query.
So it just feeds it the answer.
Yes. When a user asks a chatbot, "Find me a used towing truck near Chicago," the AI confidently serves up the clean URL because the structure proves it has the right answer.
It's basically about speaking the robot's native language.
Precisely.
Now, reading through this guidance, it heavily reflects a technology provider's perspective. Like, it focuses entirely on controllable site factors. What it doesn't fully map out is how this balances with traditional SEO, which is still driving a massive amount of current traffic.
Yeah.
You can't just abandon Google optimization to chase ChatGPT.
You really have to straddle both worlds right now.
Yeah.
But here's the ultimate irony of this whole digital mandate.
While dealers are chasing advanced AI to get new customers in the door, they are failing at basic data entry to keep their existing customers coming back.
Yes. This part blew my mind.
It's wild.
A study analyzing dealer after-sales data found that gaps in basic information are completely undermining service marketing.
Yeah.
So there was an audit of nearly 300,000 UK after-sales records by TechCore 4. And it showed that contactability is actually high, like over 90% of records successfully captured an email and a mobile number.
Right, they have the contact info. But a shocking 27% of those records lacked precise service due dates or dates for their mandatory annual safety inspections, what they call an MOT in the UK.
27%.
Yeah. Specifically, 6.4% were missing MOT dates, and 15% lacked service dates entirely.
Wait, so they have the customer's phone number and email, but no actual date for when the car needs to be seen?
Exactly.
That's like a restaurant buying a massive state-of-the-art billboard to get you in the door, but when you arrive, the host realizes they lost your reservation time. You are just standing in an empty lobby.
That's a perfect analogy, and the restaurant is still paying for the billboard.
Exactly.
Why does this matter? Because missing due dates destroy automated marketing. You cannot send a timely, helpful service reminder if you do not know when the car is actually due for an oil change or an inspection.
It breaks the whole system.
It does, and the operational ripple effect of that is severe. It leads to unpredictable demand spikes, or worse, idle service bays with highly paid technicians just standing around doing nothing. That directly bleeds revenue.
Which is wild when you consider the billions being spent on Megacasting and skunkworks EV platforms.
Right.
Though I will say, the study points out these glaring data gaps, but it doesn't actually quantify the total lost revenue impact.
True.
Nor does it assess other vital fields like vehicle mileage, which is usually a massive trigger for service intervals.
Yeah, even without the exact dollar figure attached, though, the operational drag is just undeniable.
Absolutely. Well, we have covered an incredible amount of ground, from $2 billion aluminum crunches to AI chatbots and missing safety inspection dates.
It's a lot.
Let's pull all this together. What are the big themes emerging from these sources?
I'd say 3 major themes emerge when you look at all this evidence together. First is radical simplification.
Okay.
We are seeing a fierce demand for simplicity in the physical engineering like Ford, cutting 146 parts down to 2 via Megacasting in our EV strategy source.
Right.
But we also see it in the digital architecture, where dealers are being urged to strip out messy code and use clean, simple URL structures for AI, as highlighted in that website optimization source.
So simplification across the board, physical metal and digital code.
Exactly.
What's the second theme?
The drive for direct control. Manufacturers are bringing crucial elements tighter to the chest. Ford is bringing development in-house with their Long Beach skunkworks to control costs. And Daimler is buying up the retail footprint directly to control the customer uptime experience, like we saw in that commercial retail source. They just want fewer middlemen.
Makes sense. And the third?
The compounding cost of inefficiency. Whether it is the macro scale of an aluminum supply crunch costing $2 billion, or the micro scale of a missing service date in a CRM database leaving a service bay empty, inefficiency is the ultimate enemy. You just cannot hide it anymore.
No, you really can't. And looking at all this, there are definitely some deep contradictions at play. The biggest one for me is innovation versus foundation.
Oh, totally.
We are seeing this massive push for futuristic, tech-like AI discovery tools, clean sheet electric vehicle platforms. But those ambitions are constantly colliding with grounded physical realities.
Yeah.
You have futuristic EVs held back by basic commodity shortages, and you have advanced digital marketing crippled by basic data entry failures at the service desk.
That is a profound tension. And I think the other major tension is centralized versus decentralized power. Well, there is a real clash between an OEM wanting total top-down control to ensure efficiency like Daimler's retail acquisition versus the agility and local problem-solving that independent networks have traditionally provided.
So bringing this down to earth for you listening to this, what is the practical takeaway from all of this shifting terrain?
The most urgent task for anyone navigating the auto industry right now is to audit your loose ends.
Audit your loose ends.
Yes. If you want to survive the kind of efficiency squeeze we are seeing, you have to look for the missing data points in your systems, the bloated code on your website, and the overly complex parts holding back your physical operations. The winners are simply those who tighten up the basics.
That is incredibly well said. Thank you so much for joining us on Auto News Talk. We covered everything from raw metal to robot search engines.
It is a complex ecosystem for sure, but understanding how these pieces connect is vital to seeing where the industry is heading.
Before we go, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder. If artificial intelligence eventually gets so smart that it can seamlessly recommend a car, answer your questions, and automatically book your car's service appointment without you lifting a finger.
Right.
But the dealership's backend data has the wrong date entirely. Who takes the blame when you show up to an empty garage?
That is a very real question for the near future.
Keep an eye on how your local dealerships communicate with you moving forward. Whether it's a perfectly timed service text or a clunky website, it is a direct window into how well they are adapting to this new landscape. Thanks for listening to Auto News Talk, and we will catch you next time.